Hello friendos and randos, welcome back to another video. I just went 3-0 with Purple Black Luffy at a standard battle, and I just wanted to show you guys my deck list, and I also wanted to talk a little bit more because I am really hoping to crack this list. I'm trying to solve it for the OP09 meta, and I really hope I can get as much input and people trying this list out as possible as well and see what they think. Now, let's talk about the list right away. First off, Purple Black Luffy, his effect is Dawn times 1, all of your characters get +1 cost. This is really useful against decks that have cost-based removal, like Black as well as Doflamingo, which is meta at the moment as well. This is really helpful when it comes to playing your 4-cost blockers none as well, because it means that dodges your opponent's 4-cost law bouncer. And other than that, when it comes to triggers, it also means that your 4-cost dodge rig rock trigger. So that's also very, very important. The other effect is during your turn, once per turn, if you reduce 2 or more Dawn, that means you get 1 Dawn rested and 1 Dawn active. That means any effect that is Dawn -2 is actually 1 Dawn rebate instead of Dawn -2. So this is really, really good and important as well. So let me show you the list that I won 3-0 with. First off, we are running 4 of the 1-cost Law Searcher. So this is mainly a consistency piece. In my specific deck, I've actually missed the search a lot of times with it, but its effect is on play. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck and then grab a 2-cost or higher Straw Hat Crew or Heart Pirates type card and add it to your hand. Then return the rest to the bottom of your deck. So it's really good. It searches for both types. In this deck, it's not that relevant, but it can hit Heart Pirates type cards if you are intending to run cards like that as well. For now, I'm using it because I feel the early curve is quite important, that you need to hit a few specific pieces, and in a few matchups, a few other pieces are quite important as well. But to me, the most important card in this deck is actually this card, which is the 4-cost Frankie. This card is absolutely bonkers. 4-cost, 5k power, so it can hit leader like for free. It has 1k counter still, and it's a blocker. So fantastic card, insane. On play, Dawn -2, discard 1 card from your hand and then draw 2 cards. So this lets you go +1. It's net neutral technically, and it also lets you filter out the bricks in your hand. So very, very powerful. Not only that, you also get a Dawn back when you're using this, so you can attach that Dawn to leader, or you can use it for the counter event, which is also a very key part of the deck. The next new card that we have is the 3-cost Zoro. It's really good because it lets you ramp on your 3 Dawn turn, and very, very few cards in this game are 3-cost ramp and with a body. So this card's effect is you may return any number of Dawn through your Dawn deck, and then you can ramp 1 active Dawn. So this also has a synergy with the 6-cost Sanji card, because you can de-ramp 4 Dawn and then you get 2 active Dawn back, and then you can play down the Sanji blocker. Okay, so next up, we also have 4 of the new Gum Gum Gigant. This card is insane. 1 cost, discard 1 card from your hand and go down -2, and then you can get +4k and you draw 2 cards. So that means it's hand neutral 4k counter. Yes, you go down -2, but at the later stages of the game, when you are at 10 Dawn, it doesn't really matter. You go back to 10 the next turn anyway. So this counter event is really, really insane. It gives you a lot of value. It lets you counter out of insane levels of hits, and it also helps you to filter your hand, which is really, really great. A lot of decks are hitting for very large numbers as well in the current meta, so it helps a lot against those decks. Shanks, Luffy, Teach even, really, really powerful, and it really is the ultimate anti-lethal card because you are able to just show so much counter from your hand. Okay. The next card that I'm playing is because it synergizes really well with the leader effect of give your characters +1 cost, and that is the 3D2Y Starter Deck 14 Sanji card. On play, if you have a 6-cost or higher character on the board, then you can KO up to one of your opponent's 5-cost characters. So this is really, really good on curve, because on 6, you can attach 1 to leader and then play this down to KO a 5-cost. So anything on curve, it answers. Against Doflamingo is also very good. If you are going first, you ramp Zoro into Sanji, and whatever 4-cost they play, you can KO with the Sanji. Other than that, it's also very powerful because it is a 6k body, so it does take a bit more Dawn to hit into this than to hit your face. And other than that, because it KOs based on cost, you can also extend it by using reducer cards, which I will show you that I am running a couple of them in my deck, even though most people aren't usually running them. So that is the main early game for this deck. Generally, you would do search into Zoro to ramp if you're going first. If you're going second, you can choose to Frankie instead. And then after that, on your 6th on turn, based on what your opponent did, you either do Frankie or Sanji. So this is generally how the early game for this deck goes. So after that 6th on turn, this is where the boss monsters come in. So I'm running as the primary boss monster in this deck 4 8-cost Moria. I think 8-cost Moria is really powerful in this deck because of the fact that it calls back Frankie as well as Law. This means that you are able to search for one card and then after that discard one card and draw 2 cards, which means you go +3. By playing down the Moria, you go +3 cards in hand, right? Well, you discard 1, so you go +2 total, but it's very powerful. Not only that, because you played the Frankie down, you're able to get 1 Dawn back active from your Dawn -2 and your leader effect, so you can use that 1 Dawn to counter with your Gum Gum Giant as well. The next boss I'm using is 9-cost Kaido. 9-cost Kaido is really good in this meta because it's really very powerful against Blue Doflamingo, which is probably best deck in format in OP09. On play, Dawn -5, KO up to one of your opponent's 6-cost or lower characters, and then after that, you can get Rush. So this helps you KO like a Boa and then smack into a Weevil, so it helps you to clear 2 things at once, which is really good. If you already have Moria established, you're able to probably do a full board clear as well. And not only that, after you use this, you go Dawn -5, but you also get 2 Dawn back from your leader effect, so it's effectively Dawn -3. That means if you casted it on 9, you'll go down to 6, and next turn you will be on 8, and that gives you just enough Dawn to play Moria right after the Kaido, which is a very strong board presence as well. I'm only playing 2 copies at the moment because I wanted to not run too many bricks, but this is very powerful card. And the other boss monster I'm running, I felt is more important to run because of the current meta as well, and that is the 9-cost Stasi. I think Stasi is really good in the current meta, where Shanks as well as RP Luffy are very prevalent as well, and Purple Luffy is also very prevalent. So against these 3 decks, Stasi is an MVP. It is able to KO the Law that you brought back with Moria, and then you can KO a 10-cost character. So it's very strong. Even against the Mirror, for example, you can KO their Moria, you can KO their Kaido, you can KO their 10-cost Nika, their 9-cost Rush Luffy, anything like that. It's very powerful. Even if you have to KO like your own Frankie or your own Zoro, it's also still good enough because the amount of tempo that you gain by removing their body is very worth it. So this is the general core of the deck. I'm still figuring out the ratios for the top end. And on top of these 3, I'm also playing 1 10-cost Nika Luffy, the SEC. I think it's really good as a finisher. I think it's also really good as a tempo swing when your opponent, for example, clears your entire board. Then you can play this unpunished. You get your whole board back, and the next turn you start back again at 5 Dawn. So you can play this into 5-cost Sanji, or you can play this into a Frankie, both of which are very powerful. And then because you are on 5 Dawn, you get 1 Dawn back from Nika. The next turn, right after the Nika turn, you can Moria again. So it synergizes really well. On top of that, the finisher for the Nika is much more powerful in this deck because of your leader effect giving you 2 Dawn back. So you get 2 Dawn back. Let me just showcase with actual Dawn. So you go Dawn -10, you get 2 Dawn back from your leader effect, and then you tap Nika's effect, and you get 1 more active Dawn back. So you will be able to swing 6, you pass turn, go back to yourself, you get 2 more Dawn, and then you will be able to swing 10 and 12. So 6, 10, 12 is a very strong amount of guard, a very strong series of attacks which requires a lot of guard. So if you do the math, 6, 10, 12 is 2, 6, and then 8. 2, 6, and 8k guard from a 5k leader. So 2 + 6 + 8. If they are at 0 life, of course. But if they are not, then you are basically getting an additional 16k worth of counter from your opponent for 10 Dawn, which is very good. Because normally 10 Dawn would be 11k counter, right? So you get an additional 5k basically. Why I've only been using it at a one-off is because firstly you're able to search it off of the lore. So generally, if I see it and I think that I need it more than other cards, I'll be able to pick it up anyway. And other than that, I don't think you can use it every game, especially if, for example, you get red rocked. I think that's very punishing. So generally, I use it primarily as a finisher. but I think it's very good to establish the body if your opponent clears your board, because when your opponent clears your board, you tend to be at higher life totals at the end. So if you're able to drop this at 3 Dawn and you stabilize there, you play Nika into Frankie, and then the next turn you Moria, I think that's really, really powerful. But I think at the moment I'm still going to leave it at 1 copy. Let's just switch these. Okay. So I think this is the core parts of the deck, and then the next parts are the ones that I'm still kind of researching and figuring out what I like best. So first up, I have 2k counters. So I'm running all of my 2k counters at funny ratios, but the first one is a 4-off guaranteed. Now the reason for that is 3 cost Black Maria is really, really good in this deck. Now why is that so? First off, on your 3 Dawn turn, this is just like Zoro in that it actually lets you ramp at 3. So again, like I said, 3 cost ramp with a body is very rare, and that's for good reason, because 3 cost ramp is actually pretty strong. So how the Maria interaction works with your leader effect is, let's say you are on 3 Dawn, right? Your opponent is currently at 2 Dawn. What you will do is you say Maria ramp 1 rested Dawn. So you are at 4 total. Oh shit. You are at 4 total now. At the end of your turn, you return back to 2 Dawn. So you go Dawn -2. And then your leader effect triggers. You get 1 rested and 1 active Dawn. So you end the turn on 4 Dawn. Now, this is really powerful when you're playing against purple mirrors. So for example, let me give you a, let's say you're fighting Lim leader, and Lim goes first. So Lim goes first, and 3 Dawn, she ramps to 4 Dawn. So you are having your 4 Dawn turn, you play Maria. Let's say you attach the last Dawn, you play Law or something, alright? So your opponent is on 4 Dawn. This is your 4 Dawn turn. You ramp 2 Dawn, and then you use your leader effect, go down 2 Dawn, and then you get back 2 Dawn. So on your 4 Dawn turn, you ramp 2 by playing down Maria. So it's really, really powerful in the mirror for any purple deck that ramps on the 3 Dawn turn, because this means on your quote-unquote 6 Dawn turn, you can play down Moria. So it's really powerful. Other than that, on the flip side, if you're going first, right, into the Nika Luffy mirror, this is the most ridiculous combo. You play Maria, and then you ramp from 3 to 4. Your opponent plays Maria, they ramp from 4 to 6. And then you use your Maria effect, you go from 6 to 8, and next turn you are at 10. So it's a very ridiculous interaction where the game kind of just says, okay, let's screw the early part of the game. Let's just go straight into playing big characters. So very funny interaction. I think Maria is really, really good because of that. Not only that, let's say you are on, let's say you ramped up and you're at 10 Dawn, and your opponent is at 8 Dawn. Right? You play, you use your 10 Dawn on characters like you play like 2 Sanjis or something like that, and you didn't trigger your leader effect, right? Your opponent is on 8 Dawn, you tap Maria, you return 2 Dawn, and then you're able to quote unquote restand 1 Dawn by going back to 10. So it's really, really good in that sense as well. So every turn after the 4 Dawn turn that you don't ramp additional Dawn, Maria acts as like Dillinger or Rouge, where she will restand 1 Dawn for you at the end of the turn, and that leaves you open to use your Gum Gum Giant. Not only that, if you are going to do Moria into Kaido play, if you use your Kaido and you have Maria that sticks on the board because your opponents don't feel the need to remove it, you can ramp back up to 10, and then you can Kaido again the next turn, or you can start your Moria the next turn and still be at 10 Dawn. So that's really, really powerful as well. So that's why Maria is really good in this deck. The most important part of it is that you are able to use it on 3 Dawn to ramp 1. Okay, the next 2 cases I'm running are, first off, 2 of the Stealth Black 6 called Sanji, effect being, if you have 2 or more Dawn less than your opponent, then this card becomes a 3 cost character in your hand. So this is particularly good after you've used Nika Luffy, after you've used Kaido. If you are using Moria into Zoro, you can also play this off of that as well. So it's really, really good as well. The combo would be Moria into Zoro, and then from 10 Dawn, you go Dawn -5. So again, because Zoro, you can choose how many Dawn you go down. So you go Dawn -5, you get 1 active from this, you get 1 active from leader, and then you get 1 rested from leader. So you go back to 8, and then you can play Sanji with the 3 active Dawn that you have. So Very, very good. And you can still leave one door open for Giant if you need to. So very, very good emergency blocker. Next is 2 of the 3-cost Usohachi. In my initial list, I actually snubbed this card because I felt like I didn't really need it. The games that I won, I would already have a lot of big bodies and I wouldn't need that additional rester. But I figured that for one, I would appreciate the additional insurance for going for game. Especially using this in conjunction with maybe like a Sanji, you're able to get rid of 2 blockers instead of 1. So it really helps. If you have 2 of them, you can rest 2 blockers as well. So that's also very good. And other than that, when in conjunction with Black Maria, you can use it to get rid of more pesky cards like Bomb Clay. So for example, against Red Purple Luffy, if you started off with Maria on your 3-down turn, and your opponent used Bomb Clay, you can use Maria's effect to ramp up to 10 Dawn, and then after that, play the Usohachi, because now you have 8 or more Dawn on the board. So that helps you to get rid of annoying cards like that. Okay, next is the 2 case that I think some people probably won't agree with me on, but I think are very, very key to the deck. First is 2 of the Tsuru. I think this card works really, really well in conjunction with the 2 cards here, the Sanji and the 9-cost Kaido. First of all, 9-cost Kaido with Tsuru is able to clear a 8-cost character, so that's very, very powerful. Next, in conjunction with Sanji, it clears a 7-cost character, which is actually very common in the current meta because of 7-cost Kid, 7-cost Newgate, 7-cost Ben Beckman. Some Doffy decks are also playing 6-cost Boa. If you're against Luffy, it also hits Luffy Taro. So it's a very, very good combo card. If you're really desperate to clear a 9-cost, you can also play 2 down to combine with the Sanji. If you see the deck list that I posted on the Twitter, I was running 4 Tsuru, but I also wanted to test 2 of the one-legged toy soldier. So this card is really, really good because when you call it down with Moria, generally your opponent is forced to attack it because they know that it can reduce cost, and you also play cards like Kaido and Sanji. What I have done in the past is to play Moria and then call Toy Soldier active, and in the following turn, if my opponent doesn't have an answer to the Toy Soldier, I would either Kaido or Sanji their 8-cost or 9-cost character. So it's a very, very powerful card. I previously cut it, but now I'm experimenting with 2 of these 2 instead of 4 Tsuru. Okay, the rest of the deck is going to be 2 offs as well. So first we have 7-cost Sanji. So initially I had snubbed this card in favor of playing more big bodies, but I think what I realized is that I was just bricking way too often, and so I wanted to have a big body that was strong but also hard to remove and also had counter, and this was unfortunately the only real option. I think it's not the greatest because I feel like there's no good time to drop it except for 7 Dawn exactly, because after that you want to spam your big bodies instead, but it's a very good backup option, and that's why I'm running 2 copies. Okay, next is Onami. 4-cost starter deck card. It is on play if you have 8 Dawn or more on the board. Discard 1 card from your hand and then you draw 2 cards. The unique quirk of this card compared to Frankie is that if you have 0 cards in hand, meaning the Onami is the only card in your hand, you can play it down and draw 2 cards. So that's very, very strong. The other unique quirk of this is that same as the Usohachi, if you have Maria on the board, you can actually play this on curves by using Maria's effect, going from, let's say you're only at 6 Dawn, you use Maria's effect to go to 10, and then you can play down Onami and draw your cards. So this is of course a less than ideal situation. You would prefer to use like a Frankie instead, but I think against, for example, like a Purple Mirror, by doing this Maria into Onami combo instead of Maria into Frankie, you are able to match your opponent's ramp as well. So let's say you did Maria on 3, your opponent did Bomb Clay on 4, then you can do Maria into Onami, and then you will end the turn on 7 Dawn by matching your opponent's 5 Dawn. Whereas if you did Frankie, you would have to end the turn on 6 Dawn and you couldn't match your opponent. Other than Onami, we also have Bonami. So we have the Bomb Clay 2 off. I think it's pretty good to have additional ramp options as well. Going second is really good too. And I think it's really good into Blackbeard, which is one of the main reasons I kept it in the deck. I did try a few versions without it. I did try Zorojuro, I did try Puning. I think I landed on this being the best ramp option because for one, it is not just a ramp option, but it's a very strong attacker, whereas all the other ramp options felt like one and done and you can't just let them go. This is really good because you can, for one, in matchups where they tend to play big bodies, you can Moria into it and it will be a very significant threat. Not only that, if you're on 8 Dawn, you play Moria into Bomb Clay, that leaves you 1 Dawn for a Giant, which is really good as well because it ramps active. let's say you went second, you can do Zoro into Bon Clay Frankie, which is really good as well. And that puts you on 10 Don the next turn. And you can also do Zoro into Bon Clay Onami. It's really good just to have the additional Don as an option. So that's what I really like about the Bon Clay. And then my last two cards are one-offs. Firstly, I'm running 1/2 cost Robin Blocker. So I think this was a tech that I found on a few Japanese deck lists. Basically, the main reason is that you can call it down with the Moria, and when you call Moria into active Robin and rested Frankie, if they smack into the Frankie and you can card it, it's much easier to guard that 5k body. Not only that, if it's their last attack, you can just block for the Frankie with the Robin, and then basically it's as if the Frankie blocked anyway, but you got to keep the Frankie, which is really good. If you're going for lethal, if your opponent is maybe going for lethal or going for pressure for lethal, you can also call the Robin rested and the Frankie active, and then the next turn they still have to deal with the Robin if they weren't able to clear it, like if they don't have a searcher or anything on board. So that's also very good. Other than that, it's searchable, so it's a one-off searchable card that you pick up off of the Moria, which is really good. I think it's really important to have good targets for the Moria as well, and blockers are really valuable, of course. And like I mentioned earlier with the Toy Soldier, it is a very key target that they have to hit into. So usually this ends up being a free 1k counter, quote unquote, because they have to spend like a 5k hit into it. The last one off I'm running is Top Knot. So while it's not searchable, I think it's very valuable. The main reason is that it combos really well with your Moria combo into, let's say, Tsuru Toy Soldier. So previously when I was running Tsuru only, I would be able to hit a 6 cost with this. But now that I'm running Toy Soldier again, you can hit a 7 cost, so like a Ben Beckman or a 7 cost Whitebeard, which is really good, assuming you're on 10 Don, of course. Actually, you're able to use it on 9 Don, assuming you play like a Frankie or even a Zoro that will let you revamp Don. So that's really good. What else? I think the other important part is that this is able to get rid of Jesus Burgess, which is one of our worst matchups in Blackbeard. So being able to remove the Jesus Burgess from the board helps you take off a lot of pressure, and it's really valuable to me. Not only that, against Doflamingo, for example, you are able to, on your, let's say you went second, right? And you did Zoro on your 4 Don turn or Bon Clay on your 4 Don turn. With your 7 Don, what you're able to do is play Top Knot, remove your opponent's Jinbei, play 1 Don on your leader, and then Sanji the other character. So that's very powerful as well. So I feel like this card is really valuable to me. When it comes to lethal turns as well, you're able to use it to remove a blocker, kind of in the same vein as Usuhachi. So I really like the Top Knot one off here. So that's the deck list. The ratios are pretty funky, as my lists tend to be, especially when I'm in the testing phase. But I'm quite happy with all of the card choices in general. When it comes to this top row, these are all locked in for sure. I think guaranteed, they are guaranteed locked in. When it comes to the top end, the 4 Warriors are locked in, and I'm kind of still testing the ratios for these 6. But I think 10 is probably like the sweet spot for the total number of bosses. I think less is a bit too few. I think more is a bit too many. So this is kind of where I've landed. I quite like this amount. Other than that, 2k counters, 12 feels good. I have felt like I've been lacking at times, but I think that's mainly because of the total counterless number in the deck, which is right now at 19 without including the Gum Gum Giant inside, because technically early game Gum Gum Giant is also non-counter card. But because the deck has so much filter in both the Frankie as well as the Onami, I think it's not too bad. The reason why I've had Onami inside here as well is because, again, it calls off of Moria, and I think Moria is probably one of the key pieces of the deck now. It gives you so much tempo, it gives you so much card draw, it gives you a lot of value, and I feel like no other card really matches that. A lot of the lists that run like the 9 cost Luffy or the 10 cost Kaido and Lin Lin, I don't feel like they have that sticking power. They don't have the ability to really play for the late game, and they're kind of dependent on like specific combos that are a bit hard to reach. Whereas I think for the Moria version, you kind of just need either Frankie or Onami in your trash, and I think that that's enough. Previously at the, like in my primary, like first version of the deck, I was running Sabo instead of this, but I realized that I value the ability to call this off of Moria so much more, that I think it's really worth it to be running this instead of Sabo. If I were to recommend someone to play this deck without any of the one-offs, I would probably just switch the Nika to a third Kaido. I would switch the Robin to another Onami, and the top knot would maybe be another Sanji or another Bon Clay. but this is what I've been testing so far. I'm still really going back and forth on the ratios. I'm still really going back and forth on what actually works, what doesn't work. I feel like every card here is really, really valuable, and then the main issue now is just figuring out what I'm willing to sacrifice to increase consistency of the deck, and what I'm willing to sacrifice to increase high rolliness of the deck, if that makes any sense. Because for me, like these two ops, for example, right, they are what I consider like 5 and 6 copies of cards. So for example, Onami is 5th and 6th Frankie. Bonclay is 5th and 6th Zoro. Robin is a unique card, which is why I'm playing 1. Nika is a unique card, which is why I'm playing 1. Top Knot is a unique card, I'm playing 1. The Sanji here, I'm playing 2 off as a cheaper Kaido with counter, because really it is really what I need, like a card that is tough to remove, has counter, and has an immediate impact on the board. I was testing a version with more Kaidos in the past, but I felt that the Stasi is just way too valuable in the current meta. If the meta moves away from Shanks, maybe I would cut Stasi, but I don't see a reality where that's possible at the moment. I think why I've chosen to add the Toy Soldier back into the deck as well is because I think it's really valuable as for one, a Suda blocker. It helps you take out 1k from your trash. When you play Moria, you're able to get 1k counter for free basically by eating a 5k swing. I think it's also really valuable in combo play with your Kaido as well as your Sanji. I think you can even combo it with your Top Knot if you're desperate. You can Moria into double Toy Soldier into Top Knot to clear a 10 cost. So I think that combo value is really important to me in this deck. I think being able to play cards that interact with each other is more fun when it comes to One Piece. So I like that a lot more. I've also been learning like what are the most important like thresholds and numbers to hit. For example, against RP Luffy, it's important to hold on to my Tsuru Sanji combo for the 7 cost kit instead of using it on the Yasop on curve, right? Because for example, the Yasop swings for 6 and then I punch into it while he is 7k base. So it's much better to save this combo to clear 7 cost kit. Alternatively, if my opponent is going to be playing Rush Dragon, I should set up the Toy Soldier with my Moria on my 7 don turn. So I should Moria into Toy Soldier active into Frankie, and then after that when he does Dragon into my face, then I can clear it next turn with Toy Soldier Sanji or Toy Soldier Kaido. And if he plays Rayleigh and clears the Toy Soldier instead of one of my board, that's also a win for me. So that's why I've been thinking of adding the Toy Soldier back. Initially I was playing no Usohachi, I was playing 4 Tsuru, 2 Toy Soldier, 2 Sanji, and then I switched to 4 Tsuru, 2 Usohachi, 2 Sanji, and then I switched back again to now this 2 ratio. So I'm trying to figure out what works best, and that's basically where I'm at now. I think I'm very aware of what the meta is at the moment, which is just Blue Luffy, Shanks, Red Purple Luffy, and then some Blackbeard as well. Blackbeard is definitely the toughest matchup for this deck. I think the way to beat that deck is just to play on my 6 don turn, I play 3+3. On my 8 don turn, I play 4+4. And then I just use those characters to beat down my opponent. And if he ever neglects to use his leader effect on my own play, then I have all of my big bodies ready to go. So I think that's really powerful as well. Bonk play is really good in that matchup too. Other than that, I think I've only had one standard battle win with this, so I'm not going to get carried away, but I think it's a really, really powerful deck. I think everyone's sleeping on it. I think I'm very close to solving it for the current meta. The main issue I have right now is against the Flamingo, if they high roll me and I don't high roll them back by drawing multiple Sanji into Kaido, I think that's a bit tough. Into Shanks, I need to see the Stasi really, really badly, or to chain my Moria so that I can dig for the Stasi. And into RP Luffy is the same thing. And then into Blackbeard, I think the matchup is just really bad. So those are the main issues that I have with the deck at the moment, and if I'm able to solve those things, I think this deck is going to be very, 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 very good into the meta. So yeah, that's basically it. I think that's all I have to say about the deck for now. I'm really looking forward to playing more flagships with this deck and hopefully going 5-0 so I can showcase how good it is, how good it really is. personally, I don't really vibe as much with the other meta decks, and this has really given me that vibe because I think the combo potential is really good, and I quite like just slamming Moria into Frankie Law and slamming Moria into Frankie Soldier. I think one of my favorite feelings is when I play Moria into Frankie Soldier and they have this 5k sing the Soldier, so it's really fun for me when that happens. And I think my other favorite feeling is when I do Moria into Toy Soldier Top Knot and I can clear a big body, or when I do Toy Soldier Sanji and I can clear an 8-cost character. All of these feelings are pretty fun for me. I quite like being able to interact with my few couple of cards, and when the combos go together they feel very good. It also gives me a lot more options in terms of like planning for the future, because initially I was playing for Tsuru because I felt like you needed to have the additional 1-cost options to Stasi them on, like to Stasi your opponent. But I realized that with Moria gaming, generally you always will have like a 1-cost on board. So like your Tsuru especially, right? Like when you call it back with Moria, people tend to just ignore it. So generally you're fine. They won't spend a 5k to hit the Tsuru, so it's fine. I don't think you need 4 Tsuru anymore. They also generally won't hit the law because they don't want you to Moria it back. So like that's the other issue. Like when playing against this deck, if you Moria back arrested law, they don't know whether to hit the law so that you can't call the law back with Moria, or to not hit the law so that you can't Stasi the law. So that's a funny conundrum to put people in as well. And I think the deck just gives you a lot of options. It gives you a lot of interesting plays, a lot of ways to play well and to outplay your opponents, and I quite like it in general. I will try to figure out what works best in terms of trying to match that high roll potential with that consistency, and then I will get back to you, hopefully with better results. That being said, thank you so much, friendos and randos, if you watched this far. I hope that you try out this deck list. Tell me what you like about it. Tell me if you've made any findings, and I will be really excited to hear from you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to drop me a DM and leave a comment in the comment section below. If you liked it, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter and or X, and on Twitch, where I recently streamed the standard battle, which I went 3-0 in, along with a couple of practice games, with the exact same list, barring the 2 Tsuru into 2 Toy Soldier. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, friendos and randos, and I will see you guys again next time. Peace out.